All right, class, now that we are inside, we are going to take a look at our results. So this is our tracking sheet, and this is what it should look like now that it is filled up. So I want us to discuss and compare some of the findings that we found with measuring the temperature of the materials that we used that cover Earth's surface. So I want to compare to our prediction board. So I'm gonna go around and call on everyone's name, and I want you guys to tell me what you observed. Um, if you thought something was interesting, if you had a favorite part of the lesson, I want you to share with us something that you thought is important. So at this point, the students would raise their hands to discuss how they might mention how the objects heat up with the sun, but they do so at different rates. So we can see this in our recording sheet where the rocks heated up at a slightly more higher temperature than the water. We can see this from the water being 97.2 at its highest and 80.9 at its lowest, whereas there's a bigger difference between 107.1 and 95.9 for the rocks. So they both went from warm to hot, but there's this slightly bigger temperature difference. So the students might be able to understand and explain that to the class. They might also discuss how there was a difference between the location they were placed, so whether they were in the sun or the shade marked with the cloud on the worksheet. So they can discuss how the water in the shade didn't heat up much more than the water did in the sun. It only got up to 81.3 degrees when it was in the shade, whereas in the sun, the water heated up to 97.2 degrees. So those are just some observations or explanations that the students can come up with, that they can voice their opinion or their observation about. They can discuss similarities or differences between the materials. So they can maybe discuss how they might mention how rocks and soil are more solid than water. So they may heat up at a faster rate. They could just kind of think their own ideas of why things heat up at different rates. And then after every student is able to voice their observations or their thoughts on the lesson, I will have the students fill out an assessment worksheet where they will be asked to draw a picture of what they did. So it will look like this. So this is an example of the lesson that I did. So at the top on the left, it says, what did we do? And then on the right, it says the temperature. So in this scenario, the student put the sun cup filled with rocks in the sun, and they made it so that the temperature was really, really high and circled the word hot. So they can take one of the pictures/observations that they did on the recording sheet and then write a if-then sentence to associate it with. So if something blank happens, then blank happens. So in this scenario, the student said, if the rocks are in the sun, then they will be hot. They meaning the rocks. So that's a good example because the rocks did heat up in our observations. So that would be a good assessment. The students are able to ask the teacher for help. So um, if they need help writing out words, me as a teacher would write them on the whiteboard, or as a class, which I prefer as a class, to write as many if then statements that we could on the whiteboard, and then the students can copy them onto their piece of paper. Once they copy, they can draw that corresponding picture onto their worksheet, which would work just as well. And after that, they will be able to talk in their groups about what they drew, and I'll come around, look at what they drew and what they wrote, make sure if they need any help clarifying an idea, then I will be there to help. But they will be able to color and finish up their drawings at however they would like to conclude the lesson. So that is my lesson on sunlight's effects on Earth's surface. Thank you.